Okay, we're going to look at layer styles and various applications of them just in an example, just to give you a taste of how they work. So I'm going to create a new document, and I'm going to make it web, and I'm going to make it 1920 by 1080. I'm doing that because I want this to be HD, because it's going to be a poster frame for a YouTube video, hypothetical YouTube video. I'll make it 150 pixels per inch. Okay, and then I'm going to place an image. So these images are downloadable from the link. So place embedded, and here it is. I'm going to hold down Option or Alt and just scale it up like that. So this is the image that I'm using as the background here. I want to create some text that sits on this sort of back street path, but looks like it's actually there. So I'm going to create the text first. So type tool, and this is for a hypothetical YouTube channel called Photocop, which is about Photoshop. So Photocop, and I'll select that. I want to center it. I want to make it white. I'll make it Arial bold, and I'll just crank up the size. I'm going to use this new tool in Photoshop, which is the toggle dynamic text, which means that it takes up the same width regardless. I'm going to make that caps, and yeah, I think that looks better. Okay, so that's my text, and then what I want to do is just to create a line at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go to my line tool, and I'm going to hold down Shift to create a straight line, and I'm going to make it a white stroke, and then I'm going to increase the pixels. Let's just say 20. Okay, that's about right. Move tool, and then I'm going to hold down Option or Alt and make a copy down here. I'm going to select all three of those layers and Control or Command E to merge them, and I'll just call this Photocop. I'll call this bottom layer Street, Back Street. Okay, so now with the Photocop layer, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Distort. And I'm going to line it up with this little back street here. Okay. All right. So now we get to working with layer styles. So an effect is basically whatever you find. So if I select this layer, whatever you find under this FX button. So it's bevel and emboss, inner shadows, overlay, gradient overlay, drop shadow, and so on. That's an effect. A style is a collection of effects that is saved in your graphic styles panel. So I'm going to here go to blending options. And what I want to do is blend this text with the street below so that it looks more realistic. So I'm going to go down here to underlying layer, and I'm going to bring the black slider up till it starts to blend like that, but it's very harsh at the moment. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and split the little slider so that it gives a softer transition. And I'm going to do the same on the other side with the lighter colors. So Option or Alt and split that. Okay, so it gives me the effect that this is kind of a little bit faded and worn and part of the street. I'm then going to go in my layer styles down to color overlay. And I want to make this a kind of street marking yellow. Okay, and I'm also going to add a stroke to it, and I've got a white stroke, and I'll make it 4 pixels. So you can see here I've got effects, and I've got a stroke and a color overlay, and then I've got the overall blending effect. I think that stroke is too strong, so I'm going to go to stroke here, double click, and I'm just going to take that down to 2. Okay. All right, so that's the photocop text on the street. Next, what I want to do is create a little strap line for the top here. So I'm going to take my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle across here. And I'm going to set the fill to that same yellow and the stroke to none. And I'm going to turn that into a smart object. And then what I'm going to do is go to Edit, Transform, Warp. And I want to change the warp here to custom, and I'll set it to 2 by 2. Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. Let's set it back to default. Okay, and then I'm going to just warp this so it's kind of like, you know, that crime scene yellow tape. I want to make this kind of like look a little bit like that. Okay, and then on this side we'll make it thinner. Okay, so we've got our crime scene tape going across there, but because we made it a smart object, we can now go in here. So double click on the smart object icon and we can now edit this. So I'm going to take my rectangle tool again, click away, rectangle, and I'm going to make a rectangle and fill it with black and then rotate it a little bit and pop it over here. And then I'm going to Option or Alt, drag a copy and another copy. And then I'll take those 3, merge them, Control or Command E, and then Alt or Option, drag to the other side. So we've got that kind of police coordinate tape. And then I'm going to put some text in here. In capitals, you have the right to remain creative. And set that to black, and let's pop it in here, and we'll just push up the size a bit. Okay, so we've got our little tape thing, but because it's a smart object, I'm going to save that. And then when I go back here, you can see that it actually comes in and it gets distorted by the same distortion. So this is a good way of working. And then I'm going to apply one more layer style to this. So for this rectangle, I'm going to call this crime scene tape. I'm going to go to my effects and I'm going to go to gradient overlay. And I want to create a gradient that goes from black to white to black, and then from semi-transparent, I'm going to push this up a little bit darker, or maybe a bit too dark, to fully, almost fully transparent, and this side also opacity up a little bit. So it goes from semi-opaque to more opaque to more transparent, and then back to semi-opaque, and then from black to white to black. That's the gradient that I wanted. And then say OK, and OK. I think one more layer style. So bevel and emboss, and I'm going to set the light above here, set the size up a little bit. Let's put it to normal. Doesn't seem to be having too much of an effect on this. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take it all the way up, and then I'm going to bring the size down. I just wanted to have a bit of a highlight across the top there. Okay, so that's my layer styles. Now if you want, or at least my effects applied, if you wanted to say this is a layer style, you could click on new style and you could save it. But I'm just going to say okay, so you can see here is layer styles or effects applied to each layer, and these effects collectively are called layer styles. Okay, so it's just an example of how you can use a combination of different Photoshop tools together with layer styles to create something interesting.